in chapter 19. We're going to be talking about this thing called the God Hunt. And while you're finding it, I want to find out what you know about Luke. Anybody know something about Luke? The guy who wrote this book? Luke is his name, that's correct. What else? What else do you know about Luke? He what? He was a disciple of Jesus, yes. What else? He is dead. Actually, he's not dead. He's just not on this earth. He's alive in heaven. But thanks for playing. You'll receive a toaster on your way out. Okay, Luke was a doctor. He's a doctor. And this is really important because I don't know about your doctor, but the doctors that I know, they're very specific because they have to be. Doctors have to be very specific with their prescriptions, their diagnosis. They have to be very specific with their evaluations. And here's why. Because people's lives depend on it. All right? And even though most doctors have chicken scratch, for handwriting, it's really hard to see what they're writing. Okay? The people who work with them, they know how to interpret, they know how to decipher what they've written. So Luke is a doctor. He also wrote another book of the Bible. Anybody know what other book of the Bible he wrote? Acts is correct. As in the body spray. Shh, not exactly spelled two different ways, but sounds the same. Okay? So, Luke wrote the Gospel of Luke, and he also wrote Acts. And he wrote Acts as a continuation of his Gospel. Okay? Both of these were letters, actually, and he was writing to a friend of his called Theophilus in the book of Acts. And so, the story that we're going to read here in Luke chapter 19, verses, whatever it is there, 1 and following, it says this: Then Jesus entered Jericho and was passing through. And a man was there by the name of Zacchaeus. He was a chief tax collector, and he was wealthy. He wanted to see who Jesus was, but because he was short, he could not see over the crowd. So he ran ahead and he climbed up a sycamore fig tree to see him, since Jesus was coming that way. When Jesus reached the spot, he looked up and he said to him, Zacchaeus, come down immediately. I must stay at your house today. So Zacchaeus came down at once and he welcomed him gladly. All the people saw this and they began to mutter, he has gone to be the guest of a sinner. But Zacchaeus stood up and he said, Look, Lord, here and now, I give half of my possessions to the poor, and if I have cheated anybody out of anything, I will pay back 4 times the amount. And Jesus said to him, Today salvation has come to this house because this man, too, is a son of Abraham. For the Son of Man came to seek and to save that which was lost. This story is a pretty incredible story for a number of reasons. We just finished up tax season, which was what day? April 15th, yes. You will really need to know that day as you get older. It's a very important day because that's the day when you have to file your taxes. In fact, many of you probably have parents who on that particular day or leading up to that day were probably very stressed, very upset, not very happy with the government because they had to pay money. Even in Zacchaeus' day, people did not like taxes. They didn't like tax collectors, just like many people today do not like the IRS. Okay? And here's the thing that you need to understand, is that they didn't like them back then for the same reasons we don't really like them nowadays, okay? Because they work for the government, and a lot of people feel like the government's just cheating people out of money that they've worked hard for. But here's what happens back in Zacchaeus' day. You see, Zacchaeus was not just a tax collector, he had actually become a chief tax collector. He had worked his way up the success ladder, and he became a very wealthy man by cheating other people. See, Zacchaeus was actually a Jewish man, but he was working for the Roman government. So a lot of people didn't like that because they felt like he was a traitor. They felt like he was cheating his own people out of their money and giving it to the Romans. Zacchaeus did also was he pocketed some of the money for himself. You see, the way it worked back then is that if you went to somebody's house, and let's just say, Zacchaeus was coming to my house, and he would say, hey, George, taxes are due, And I would say, yes, Zacchaeus, I know. I owe a sheep. He would say, oh, really, a sheep? I don't think so. I think you owe 10 sheep. No, Zacchaeus, I don't owe 10 sheep. I've done my taxes well. I know how much I owe. I owe 1 sheep. And he'd say, no, you owe 10 sheep, pay 10 sheep, or go to jail. And you know what I'd have to do? Pay 10 sheep, because I don't want to go to jail. But this is what Zacchaeus would do. He knew I only owed 1 sheep. So he would pay the 1 sheep to the Romans, and he would keep 9 sheep for himself. That's how he became rich. Because he would steal money from other people and keep it for himself. So you can imagine, there were a lot of people who did not like Zacchaeus. And I would bet to say that you probably wouldn't like Zacchaeus either. Let me just give you some general things about Zacchaeus right here. He was short, the Bible tells us. Okay, it's not like anything that you would really look at and think is a big deal, but the Bible points this out to us, that he was a short man. Now, I don't know how many of you have ever been picked on because of your height. Where are you? Okay? Yeah. I mean, probably at some point in your life, somebody's going to make fun of you because of your height. Or maybe it wasn't your height. Maybe it was how fast you ran. Or maybe it was, how slow you ate your food. I don't know. But people make fun of you for all kinds of reasons, right? When I was growing up, people used to make fun of me. Back then I had hair. I don't have hair now. But it's like getting made fun of because of my hair, getting made fun of because I don't have hair. It's like you can't win, right? People are going to make fun of you for something. So Zacchaeus was short. I can just imagine him growing up and him thinking, man, I hate being short like this. I just can't stand it. I wish I could be tall like that guy. I wish I could be tall. But you just wait. One day I'm going to prove it to you. I'm going to kick your kneecaps in. Because that's all I could reach, right? His kneecaps. So Zacchaeus is like, I'm going to show you one day. I'm going to be somebody. And a lot of people feel that way. They're like, you just wait. One day I'm going to prove to you. I'm going to prove to you. I'm going to be somebody. Maybe that's you tonight. Zacchaeus was also a sellout. Just told you that he was working for the Romans. And so because he had kind of turned his back on his own people, everybody looked at him. He's like, he's a sellout, man. You can't trust him. No, I wouldn't do anything for that guy. No, he's a loser. We don't associate with him. Maybe you feel like that. Maybe you feel like people have turned their back on you for whatever reason. Maybe you were friends with somebody they didn't like. Maybe you did something and maybe even betrayed a friendship and they're just like, no, I don't trust you anymore. You're a sellout. No, I'm sorry, but yeah, I trusted you one time, but not again. It's not going to happen. What about this? He was wealthy. Zacchaeus was rich, and you know what? When we don't have a lot of money, it's easy to look at other people who are wealthy and kind of be jealous and bitter. It's easy for us to look at them and say, you know what? Yeah, I know they got that money. And automatically, you can start thinking about what they did illegal to get it. Maybe they worked hard for it. But a lot of times, we don't think about that. We don't think that people work hard for it. We think they did something wrong. And a lot of times, we can judge people by the kind of house they live in, the kind of car they drive. They were looking at Zacchaeus and they were like, oh man, look at that guy. He's got a 2-hump camel, I only got 1 hump on my camel. Wow, I wish I could have 2 humps on the camel. That'd be so nice, right? And so the thing is this, is that, we kind of look at people and we start judging them based on what they have. And look, Zacchaeus was like, yeah man, I'm somebody now. I got all this money. And even though people don't like me, they know me. People are afraid of me. Well, they weren't afraid of me when I was younger, but they're afraid of me now. What about this? He was still empty on the inside. You see, Zacchaeus, even though he had climbed the social ladder, status, people knew him, even though he had all this money, he was proving to be somebody. Deep down inside, something was still missing in Zacchaeus' life. And I want to tell you this tonight, that I don't care where you are, what your background is, or where you come from. There's a God who's hunting for you. There's a God who's looking for you. You see, you may not be looking for God, but God is looking for you. Zacchaeus wasn't really looking for God. He really got to have it all, right? He had money, he had popularity and fame and prestige, and really he was kind of living the high life. But something was missing on the inside. Something was missing. And he heard about this guy named Jesus. That there was something going on with this guy named Jesus. That he was doing things that other people weren't doing. He was talking like a different kind of language. He was healing people. He was like engaging people and not just the rich and the famous. He was actually engaging people who were poor and kind of down and out and people who nobody else associated with. And there was something that really just struck Zacchaeus. And he's like, I don't really understand this guy. Why is he doing that? Who is this guy? And so one day Zacchaeus hears that Jesus is coming through town. And so he gets this plan in his head. He's like, you know what? People, if they knew that I was not satisfied, if they knew deep down inside I was still empty, that wouldn't be cool. It wouldn't be cool. I can't let people know that. I can't let people know that a rich guy who's climbed that ladder still has something missing inside. So he said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to climb into a tree. Nobody will even know I'm here. I'm going to climb up in this tree and I'm just going to kind of look at Jesus from a distance. I'm just going to kind of, wait till he comes by, watches him passes, and then, just kind of make my own opinion. Kind of get my own opinion of this guy and see what he's really like. But listen to this. We're all hunting for something or for someone. It doesn't matter what you do in life, where you go in life. You're always looking for something. You want approval, acceptance, belonging. You want meaning and value. These are human things that God has put inside of us. And all the things that we chase after, and all the things that we do are to help fulfill those longings that we have inside of us. Because you're created to belong. You're created to be loved. You're created to have a relationship with other people and with God. So we're hunting for those things. And Zacchaeus had been hunting, but he had not found it. Look at this by Blaise Pascal. He says, there is a God-shaped vacuum in the heart of every man, which cannot be filled by any created thing, but only by God, the Creator, made known through Jesus. Pascal says this, that inside of your heart, there is a void, a space. Have you ever seen that game or it's not really a game, but when you're a child, they kind of have this cube. And the cube has different pieces cut out, like a block or an octagon or a cross or whatever. And so you have these pieces. And the only way, you can't take the square piece and try to put it through the round circle, right? Because it doesn't fit. It doesn't work. It's not going to work that way. And so what Pascal is saying is this, is inside of us, inside of our souls, we have a Jesus-shaped void. And you can try to put wealth, or you can try to put popularity, or you can try to put relationships, you can try to cram anything you want into that shaped void. But nothing is going to fit it except Jesus. Nothing. Zacchaeus had tried all these other things and realized something was still missing. St. Augustine said this. He says, thou hast made us to know thee, and our hearts are restless until they find their rest in thee. Augustine said this, God, you've made me, and you created me for you. And so until I find you, until I have a relationship with you, everything else is going to leave me empty. There's nothing that's going to satisfy me until I have a relationship with you. So Zacchaeus was finding this out. I don't know how old Zacchaeus was, but I know that he had lived long enough, he had made enough money, he had been around the block a time or two to know, you know what, the stuff that everybody else says is so meaningful, so valuable, it's not really cutting it for me. All that stuff that I remember growing up thinking, man, if I could have a car like that, man, I can't wait till I can have a car like that. You know what, you got a car like that, and it didn't satisfy. Man, if I could have a house like that, if I could have a house just like that with a basement, and he got the house with the basement, and it wasn't enough. And then he said, if I could just be the CEO or the COO or whatever, the cuckoo of everything, who knows what, whatever it is, whatever title, he's like, if I could just be that. And you know what? He And so Zacchaeus climbs up to this tree. Now this is what's really interesting, is that Jesus, because he had a lot of people following him, right? So let's just say that Zacchaeus is like over there. And so he's up in the tree, and nobody really saw him go up in the tree. You know, he's just doing his own thing because everybody's focused on Jesus. And so Zacchaeus is over there waiting in the tree, and all these people begin to move this way. I mean, there's like a large crowd of people. And so Zacchaeus sees them coming because the dust is rising up, and all these people are moving, and there's talking and murmuring and all that kind of stuff going on, you know, and everybody's talking about Jesus, and they're listening to what he has to say. And as Zacchaeus is there in that tree, looking down, that crowd of people began to move underneath that tree. And all of a sudden, something very interesting and strange happens. Is that the Bible says this, that Jesus got to the spot. I think it's interesting that Luke says that. He says, he came to the spot. What spot? I mean, was there like an X marked on the ground that said, hey, Jesus, look up? Oh, no. You see, Jesus is God, and God knows everything, and so Jesus knew exactly that Zacchaeus was in that tree. And the Bible says this, that Jesus came to the spot. Zacchaeus. Nobody told Jesus that Zacchaeus was there. Zacchaeus didn't, there wasn't like a leaf that came down, and fell in front of Jesus. There wasn't anything like that. There wasn't some voice that came from heaven and said, Jesus, Zacchaeus is right above you. He didn't do that. In fact, the Bible says that Jesus came to the spot and he stopped. Very interesting. That the doctor would give us this kind of detail. What does that mean for us? This is what it means for you. That God, Jesus, knows exactly where you are tonight. He knows exactly what chair you're sitting in. He knows exactly where you are in life, what you feel, what you think, what makes you happy, what makes you sad. He knows what's going on in your life. He knows where you are. And the Bible says that he came to that spot and he stopped, and then he looked up, and what did he say? Hey, you dude. Is that Jesus? Did Jesus talk in generalities like that? Just say, hey, what's up, man? Right? See, that's what sometimes, in fact, I was at Walmart in North Carolina the other day, and I was outside trying to raise funds for mission trips. And so I'm standing out there. You know how it is. You go to Walmart, you run into everybody that you haven't seen in years, right? And so I was standing out in Walmart, and this girl comes up to me, and she's like, hey, George, how you doing? And I was like, hey, I don't remember your name. And I felt so bad. She's like, I'm Patricia. We went to church together. We were in youth group together. And I was like, that's right. I'm so glad you remembered your name because I didn't remember. Right? You see, it doesn't work that way with Jesus. Jesus is not up in heaven stressed out because there's like 7 billion people on the planet. He's like, oh, I can't keep up with all these names. How many Georges are there? Oh, you're George number 455,000. He's not doing that. He doesn't look down at you and say, oh, just got to slip my mind. I forgot you're going to be at youth tonight. And I really wanted to speak to you, but I got tied up with something else. Jesus is not like that. He knows exactly where you are. He knows what's going on, and he knows your name. He came to that spot. And he looked up and he said, hey, Zacchaeus, look at this. Long before you're ever looking for Jesus, Jesus is looking for you. Tonight you came to youth group because maybe it's what you do every Wednesday, and you didn't know that I was going to be here, or else you wouldn't have come. Just kidding. But the thing is this, is that you came to youth group and you just think, oh, this is my routine, I just do it and whatever, and it's like, yeah, if something cool happens, that's cool, but if not, okay, it's just youth group. But listen, Jesus is always looking for you. Wherever you are, it doesn't matter whether it's a church, or whether it's at school, or whether it's at the mall. I don't know why you go to this mall, but if you do, just kidding. Hey, Radio Shack just closed, there's no reason to go there anymore. But listen, it's like wherever you go, whatever you do, Jesus is looking for you. And I know it might be hard for you to believe. But you know what? He's looking for you. And if there's something that kind of pulls at your heart, wherever you are, at church, or at school, or at the mall, or whatever, if there's something that tugs at you, and you're just like, oh, dude, that really, there's something. It means something to me. Maybe you see somebody standing on the street and you're touched with compassion. Or maybe you see an accident and it just strikes you, you know what, I should pray. You see, that is speaking to you. And that is God saying, hey, hey, hey.